The Cursed Chalice of Avarice. The day I inherited the Chalice of Avarice from my eccentric uncle, I believed my fortunes had changed. Little did I know. It marked the beginning of a terrifying descent into a nightmare, from which I feared I would never awaken. My uncle was a collector of oddities, his manor a labyrinth of ancient artifacts and forbidden texts. When he passed, I was his sole heir, tasked with sorting through his life's obsession. Among the relics, one stood out, a chalice, carved from obsidian, its surface etched with indecipherable runes, and set with jewels that seemed to absorb the light around them. A letter accompanied the chalice, penned in my uncle's shaky hand. To my dearest nephew, it read, "Within this chalice lies the wealth of ages. But beware its curse, let no greed guide you, or suffer the fate of those before you." I dismissed his warning as the ramblings of a man lost to obsession. Eager to understand its worth, I researched the chalice, learning it was once owned by a medieval baron known for his insatiable greed. Legend had it that the chalice granted him immense wealth, but at a dire cost to those around him. His family and friends vanished mysteriously, leaving him isolated in his opulent castle, where he eventually succumbed to madness and despair. I laughed off the stories. Curses belonged in fairy tales, not in the modern world. That night, I filled the chalice with wine, toasting to my future. The first sip was like drinking liquid gold, each subsequent one more intoxicating than the last. The world around me seemed to glow, and I felt an euphoria unlike anything I'd ever experienced. But when morning came, the glow had faded, replaced by a gnawing emptiness. I tried to fill it with food, drink, anything, but nothing satisfied, except, I realized, for the wine from the chalice. Each sip brought back the euphoria, but it dwindled faster every time, leaving me more desperate. Strange occurrences began to plague me. Shadows moved at the corners of my vision. Whispers filled the silent spaces of my home, and the air grew cold and thick with unease. I found myself drawn to the chalice with an insatiable hunger, no longer for the wealth it promised, but for the fleeting escape it provided from the growing terror that consumed my every waking moment. As days blurred into nights, my health deteriorated. My reflection revealed a gaunt figure, eyes hollow with an insatiable cravings even the chalice could quench. Friends and family kept their distance, disturbed by the obsession that had overtaken me. But I couldn't explain it to them. How could I make them understand that I was trapped, bound to a curse of my own disbelief? The breaking point came when I woke to find myself standing at the edge of my bed, the chalice in hand, whispering to it as though it could whisper back. I had no memory of how I got there, only a sense of dread that something unseen had guided my actions. In desperation, I sought to rid myself of the chalice, throwing it into the sea, but it returned, always dry and gleaming, as if waiting patiently for its next sip of my soul. I tried to destroy it, to bury it, to gift it away, but it found its way back to me every time, each return accompanied by a deeper sense of despair. I realized then the true nature of the curse. It wasn't just about the greed for wealth or the desire for more. It was about the insidious way it fed on my spirit, leaving me a husk of my former self, isolated and tormented by my own desires turned against me. I scoured my uncle's texts for a way to break the curse. Delving into ancient rituals and forgotten lore, my salvation came in the form of a rite, one that required a sacrifice of what had been most precious to me before the chalice's influence took hold. With trembling hands, I performed the ritual, offering my cherished memories, my hopes and dreams, into the chalice's void. As I recited the final incantation, a scream echoed from the chalice, a sound of anguish and rage that shook the foundations of my home. Then, silence. The chalice cracked, its pieces crumbling to dust. Releasing me from its grip, I was left with nothing but the remnants of my life before the curse. A reminder of the price of my folly. The terror has since subsided, but the shadows and whispers linger, a haunting reminder of the chalice's curse. I live now with the knowledge of the darkness that dwells in the hearts of men, fed by the insatiable desire for more, and I warn others of the dangers of unearthing relics best left buried, for not all treasures come without a price. The Whispering Relic. The day I inherited the ancient chest from my estranged grandfather, I thought I had stumbled upon a treasure. Little did I know, it was a curse wrapped in oak and iron. He had been an eccentric collector of the arcane and mystical, and within the chest lay his most prized possession, a small, seemingly innocuous clay tablet inscribed with symbols that seemed to dance before my eyes. The note attached was simple and foreboding: to my dearest. May you succeed where I failed. Beware the whispers. I chuckled at the dramatic warning. My interest in the occult was purely academic, a curiosity for the history and myth rather than belief in its power. That night, the dreams began. Whispers filled my sleep. Voices ancient and alien, speaking in tongues long dead. Each morning I awoke exhausted. The symbols from the tablet burned into my mind's eye, their meaning tantalizingly out of reach. Compelled by an obsession I couldn't explain, I began to research the tablet. The symbols were of Sumerian origin, relating to rituals of communication with the divine, or, as I slowly discovered, with something far darker. The whispers grew louder each night, no longer confined to my dreams. They followed me through the day, a constant, unintelligible murmur just over my shoulder. Shadows seemed to linger longer in my presence, and the air around me felt charged with an unseen energy. Driven by a need for answers, I delved deeper into the tablet's history. It was last mentioned in the diary of an explorer who vanished in the Middle East in the 1920s, believed to have been cursed by the very relic he sought. I started to fear the tablet was not a conduit to the divine, but a beacon for something much more malevolent. My home no longer felt safe. Objects moved of their own accord. Doors slammed shut, and the temperature would drop so suddenly that my breath became visible. But it was the shadows that terrified me. The most, they seemed to watch me, creeping closer whenever I dared to glance away. Desperate, I sought the help of a local expert in the occult. She listened to my story with a grim face, her eyes darkening at the mention of the whispers. "You've not just inherited a relic," she said, her voice a whisper itself, "but a curse. This tablet is a key, and it's opened a door that's not easily closed." She agreed to help me, to perform a ritual to sever the connection and banish whatever had been called forth. We prepared in my home, drawing symbols of protection on the floors and walls, lighting candles whose flames seemed to struggle against an unseen force. As we began the ritual, the air grew thick, and the whispers intensified into a cacophony of voices, so loud it was, as though they were screaming inside my head. The shadows converged on us, forming shapes that were almost human, their hands reaching out as if to stop us. The expert chanted in ancient languages, her voice steady despite the chaos. I held the tablet, feeling it grow warmer in my hands, its symbols glowing with a sinister light. The voices pleaded, threatened, begged, but she pressed on, her will unyielding. Then, with a final, deafening silence, it was over. The tablet shattered in my hands, the pieces turning to dust that disappeared before hitting the ground. The shadows receded, the whispers ceased, and for the first time in weeks, I took a breath that didn't feel heavy with dread. The expert warned me as she left, her eyes weary but kind. "This is over, but remember, the world is full of doors not meant to be opened. Let this be your only foray into the unknown." I wish I could say I heeded her advice, that my curiosity was curbed by the horror I'd faced, but the truth is, the whispers never completely left, they are quieter now. A constant murmur at the edge of my hearing, a reminder of the price of hubris. The tablet might be gone, but the curse remains a part of me, a whispering relic of my own making. I live my life looking over my shoulder, wary of the shadows and the secrets they might hold. My grandfather's inheritance was not a treasure, but a lesson in the dangers of delving too deep into the secrets of the past. And so, I write this as a warning to others. Beware the allure of the unknown, for some doors, once opened, can never be closed again.